What up, guys? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm Matt Wyatt. So I'm continuing the road to Deadpool and Wolverine. That's gonna be hitting in theaters on July 26th. Man, we're so damn close for this movie getting released. I can't wait. And I'm gonna try to my best to keep these reviews a little bit short because a lot of my reviews before this was a little too long. So I'm gonna do my best to try to speed up the process and get straight to the point because we're literally close for this movie getting released, and I wanted to speed up the process of my review. So the next installment of the Fox's X-Men universe, it's X-Men Apocalypse that came out in 2016, and we got the returning director Bryan Singer, which I remember distinctly that I was very hyped to see X-Men Apocalypse because I love X-Men Days of Future Past because if you watched my review in my previous video, you know it's my favorite X-Men movie of all time, and that was at its peak. And I remember being hyped for this film, and then the trailers came out, and we were gonna get the main villain Apocalypse, which I was never familiar with this character in the comic books and I didn't see the animation at the time until very late when I watched it very late in the game, and I was so interested in that character that he was gonna be the biggest baddie villain in the X-Men universe, that the most toughest villain that the X-Men has never faced before. And they were going to do a time jump in the 80s, even though that the main characters that we know, Professor X and Magneto, that most of them look like they're in their mid 20s when they're supposed to be in their mid 40s, with the exception of Mystique. We already know that she ages very rapidly slow. You got an actor, Oscar Isaac, playing Apocalypse, playing the main villain, and I was like, you know what? This could be a big win. This could be the biggest opportunity that he might be one of the best villains in the X-Men universe. And they had a rich story with Apocalypse, especially the Age of Apocalypse from the comic books. And look, take this with a giant grain of salt. I never read the comic books. I was told by a bunch of fans who loved the storyline and was one of the best storylines ever told. And seeing that this movie come to life was going to be everything. Then when he showed us what he was going to look like, his look really looked bad. The design of Apocalypse looked like he was coming from Ivan Ooze from Power Rangers, which everybody made fun of. But it did look slightly better when it was in post, but it's not saying much because Apocalypse's goal, he was the first mutant of his own kind. He ruled over Egypt and built pyramids, and his horsemen betrayed him after he did the transformation of his other body, that he transfers consciousness into this next body and become immortal, which the mutant had the ability, the healing factor. And he was betrayed and he was buried and he slept through the ages. That was in the 7 minute in the opening of the film. And and the opening was very good. I was going to be intrigued. And then we cut into the 80s and we meet these younger characters like Cyclops, played by Sheridan. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing his name. I think he's a very good actor, and he was playing Cyclops. And I was like, this could be a big opportunity to use Cyclops. And then you got Jean Grey, played by Sophie Turner, which I was interested because she was coming off of the Game of Thrones series, and I think she was terrific. But the downside is I thought her acting felt very dull and very dry, especially with the American accent that she tried to do. And you could tell that that was so fully ADR'd. But I was so intrigued that we were going to meet these younger characters and we were going to meet up with Nightcrawler too. And it was played by a different actor, which I can't remember his name at the top of my head, but he was in Dawn of the Planet of the Apes and he was great. And I think that the casting choice for him to play Nightcrawler was awesome. And even I thought that some of the characters felt very one note. The chemistry with Cyclops and Jean Grey wasn't really clicking well for me, and we got so much in the heavy exposition of the setup of when Apocalypse is trying to recruit the four horsemen who will follow him, and when he was trying to wanted to cleanse the world because once he reawakens from through the ages from his tomb, he was angry at what the world has become and what humanity has become. And he did that by just using the TV to somehow he has the ability to learn a bunch of things and from every satellite from every history, and he could download data even though it's in the 80s, which that made no sense. I mean, his motives to me was kind of very unclear at times because sometimes he flip-flops and it was all over the place, and the way that he was recruiting the four horsemen I did not like. I mean, I'm glad that they brought in Storm in the movie and it was played by a different actress, which I think she's great and I thought she was a great choice, but her motives was never very clear of why she wanted to join Apocalypse. She was a street rat, and then somehow Apocalypse had the ability to reach their mutants' full potential and making them stronger, and apparently giving them extreme makeover. That's one of his greatest superpower. Apparently, he should just own his own reality TV show and doing his own extreme makeover with the villain costumes and making them stronger. That's the only reason why she decided to join. I mean, there is a deleted scene in the movie where they do explain about her backstory when she was talking to Charles Xavier, but surprisingly they didn't want to put that in the movie. Then we got Warren, who is Angel, who has Angel wings, which it was kind of the same iteration we saw in X-Men: The Last Stand, but now he's born into a different time period, and he's performing it, and he's now doing cage fighting, and he's British. So there's so many plot holes that they did, and they are like, you know what? Don't worry about it. Then we got Psylocke, played by Olivia Munn, which I remembered her as a TV host from Attack of the Show, and she was after the Attack of the Show ended and G4 ended, she went into pursuing acting, and she just plays a henchman. She just plays the bodyguard. There's really no character layers to her character. There's not enough depth. She's just there. That's it. Her acting was so bad too, and her costume looked like she was coming off of a cosplay. And here's the thing: Magneto did become one of the four horsemen, and his motives was very clear because for the past 10 years he's been living a quiet life and he has his wife and his kids. But that was just there to further the plot because we know that they're going to bite the dust. I wish we would have had more screen time with the family. It wasn't enough for me to have any sympathies with them because we know that they're going to bite the dust, and that's why Magneto is going to turn on humanity again because he really did try to have to accept humanity, and he tried Charles's way, but then his paths have caught up and it backfired. And the way they did it was kind of poorly executed, but I did like the body count that Magneto did with the coin against those policemen. That was great shot. That's what I will give Bryan Singer for. And yeah, Michael Fassbender and James McAvoy were the Lord and Savior in the movie. They continued to crush over their performance. Mystique, as Jennifer Lawrence's Mystique, completely phoned it in. She was ready to be done. She did not want to be in the blue makeup again. That's why she's in her human form. And they had to come up with excuses why she constantly wants to be in the human form and not embracing herself. And everyone looks at her as a hero after what happened in the events of DC. They look at her as a symbol, which to me, I didn't think it make any sense. And her leading the X-Men team still didn't make any sense. Jennifer Lawrence did not really give two squirts of shit to be in this movie, and you could tell she phoned it in. But I was so happy to see the return of Quicksilver, Evan Peters. He continues to be the highlight of the movie. He already discovers that he is the son of Magneto, and he went to go find him. And after the explosion at the mansion, we see him going around saving the students, and that's just another sequence for Quicksilver that was a 2.0 from the last film, Days of Future Past. And we got to return Alex Summers from X-Men First Class because he only had a cameo role in Days of Future Past. But I did like the family reunion between Scott and Alex because they're brothers in the comic book and animation. And I wish they would have had more screen time between the two of them and add a little bit more relationship. But you got already 2.5 hour movie and you already got so much to do. So hey, we can't all have our cake and eat it too. And I wanted to like Cyclops more in the movie, but he kind of became more teen angsty rebel, and I just didn't like how they've handled them and how they've used them. And they did had an extended scene at the mall when Jean and Jubilee and Nightcrawler all went to the mall together. And I thought that would have been a good scene. And I get why they had to cut that out, but that would have added so much character depth in the film. They went to go see Return of the Jedi, and they were so meta of how they poke fun of that the third movie is always the worst. And it was way too on the nose, and it just felt so weak. And I did not like that. But you know what? It is what it is. Then they get kidnapped by William Stryker, and it was very unclear how he showed up at the last minute after the biggest incident at the mansion. And I thought that was ridiculous. And he just selected the main characters so that they could force the whole Weapon X sequences with Hugh Jackman's cameo role, which even though it was a pointless cameo, but it was the closest thing that we had to the Weapon X origin. It's really making up for all the shitty mistakes that Fox did in X-Men Origins, and it was the closest faithful to the source material, and I love that. And Jean Grey was the one who freed him from his cage. And that was like the Lord and Savior in the best part of the whole movie. I forgot all about Apocalypse. I forgot all about that character. Apocalypse captures Charles Xavier. He wants to use him to control everybody on the planet, and he wants to use him as a vessel. Which, dude, you have the power of the immortality, and you want to switch over and try to control everyone on the planet. And to be honest, it was so stupid. And him launching all the nukes when he took control of the Cerebro, I mean, that got my adrenaline running. And I was like, oh my God, he's going to use all the nukes nukes to destroy the entire world because that's just been his goal from the start, and that would have got the job done. But for some reason, he shot up into space and disarmed it because he wanted to get rid of all the weapons that the humans had created, and that they will be defenseless. And that's my only explanation of why he did it. But the third act finale kind of fell apart for me. It became too action heavy. The green screens were crap. There were some good fight scenes. I enjoy that. But at the end of the day, it just felt bland. And Magneto is using all of his strength to kill every major cities around the world and killing every innocent people. And the only way that they could have prevented if Quicksilver had gone up to him and tell him that he was his son. Because remember, Magneto was all about he had nothing to lose. He had nothing to lose anymore because his family was dead because it was killed by the humans, and he had nothing to lose anymore. And that could have had their own little bit of Return of the Jedi moment. But no, for some reason, Quicksilver did not want to tell him that he is his son, which it made no sense and was no explanation why he didn't want to tell him. That could have resolved the whole thing. Him turning against Apocalypse made no sense. Somehow he just flashes back to for Charles giving him life lessons in the past, and that's the only reason why he turned against Apocalypse. To be honest with you, it was kind of dumb. The fight between Magneto and Apocalypse was going to be the biggest opportunity, and that was going to be awesome to see them square off. But then it looked lame as hell when he was throwing just a bunch of shard of metal at him. It looked really bad from a visual standpoint. I mean, they did had square off in comic book before, and from what I've heard, it was supposed to be badass. But the way they've handled it in the context of the film, it was so badly done. But the one thing I liked was the mind battle against Charles in Apocalypse. That was awesome. That was something that we never saw before in a comic book movie, and I wanted a little bit more. Then Jean Grey has now coming in to save the day and try to embrace the Phoenix power. We know that she has the power of the Phoenix, that there's a sentient being inside her, and she has a hard time controlling her powers throughout the whole movie. And she's been having nightmares that she will be causing havoc around the world and incinerate everyone. That's always been a tease for the Dark Phoenix saga, and they set that up, and it was like, oh God, we were gonna get that done and done right, and they definitely set that up for the next movie. And it was cool that the way that she defeated Apocalypse, but overall he was just a throwaway villain, and it felt like that they just became a generic bad guy that we've seen before. It felt like the studio wanted to be more of a action spectacle driven movie instead of a character driven movie. To me, it felt like they suffered an identity crisis and they didn't know what it really want. And after the Apocalypse's defeat, apparently the government it just let that slide when Magneto killed a lot of innocent people around the world, and somehow they're all forgiven. Even Charles forgives him, which it made no sense. Like, dude, come on. Like I thought this is the problem that I have with this film, that he should not have been one of the part of the Four Horsemen. And even Storm turning against Apocalypse the moment she sees Mystique, her idol, her hero, getting about to get killed. And that's the only reason why she just flips flips sides and just turn against Apocalypse. To me, it was just a big mess of a script. The story was all over the place and it didn't really know what it wanted. It was a movie that fell on its face, but there were a lot of redeemable qualities, and it wasn't like X-Men Origins bad. I might like this movie a little bit more than X-Men The Last Stand, just by a little. But overall, it's a mid film at its best, and it was a film that I didn't really care for that much. But what did you think of X-Men Apocalypse? What did you think of it? Did you love it more than I did? Or do you agree with me and thought it was one of the weakest X-Men films of all time? Just let me know your take in the comment section below. Look, I was really hyped when I saw this in theaters, and at first I liked it, but the more I watch it, the more I like it a lot less. So let me know your take in the comment section below. And if you like this video, make sure you hit the like button. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and make sure you turn on the bell notification so you know when my upcoming videos will drop. Thank you so much for watching my video. I hope you guys have a great day, great evening, wherever you're from, and stay tuned for more of my videos.